Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 7 of the Formula Series we've got here at Phoenix Simsport. And we have got ourselves a very full grid, and I'm very excited to see what is in store for us as we race for Hungary. Short qualifying, full dry circuit, and a full grid. I am slightly terrified because of how tight the circuit can be and how tricky the overtaking can be, but equally, I am just as excited to see a full grid with a few names and faces back on the grid we haven't seen in a little while. And we actually got, I think this is the biggest, this is the most number of reserves we've ever had in a single round. Unfortunately, quite a few drivers were unable to make it, so we'll have to see what goes on with that. Bear with me, let's have a look at how many reserves we've got in store for us today. For Tier 1, we have 5 reserves for this evening's race, and it is a full grid. This is going to be thrilling indeed. 18 minutes on the clock. And who's going to be the first driver to leave the pits? I am curious to know what the provisional time will be. Unfortunately, for Tier 2, those of you who usually join to watch Tier 2, unfortunately, our streamer had to back out last minute due to unforeseen circumstances. So, there was no Tier 2 stream. We will be back with Tier 2 next week, though. Do not fret. Who is the first driver? No one is going to come out of the garage just yet. But if you haven't noticed before, welcome to the stream. Gigiland, Snaff, Vers, Mix, Rose, Adrian. We do have a few names and faces on the grid for today's race. We've got ourselves some returning kings and champions, and we've got some interesting new names and faces. We've got ourselves Nadim. That is the biggest name on the grid for this evening. Nadim is back on the grid. Oh, what season was that? I think it was a season 5, season 6 champion. An absolute insanely quick man on the control. I don't know how he manages to do it. We then have Vabo reserving in for Williams. He won the Tier 2 race. Unfortunately, no stream for that, but Vabo wins that, and he's now racing for competitors in the Williams. We then have ourselves Squallop reserving in for Red Bull. Unfortunately, Red Bull's second driver, you can see Squallop now leaving the garage. Unfortunately, he is unable to make it for the race. Baltash reserving in for the Williams as well. AlphaTauri driver, Queen's up. Haven't seen that name in a very long time, reserving in for the Ferrari. And then we have, of course, the usual lot skill issue, which is Mix, Shanae, Julian, Rico at the bottom of the grid at the moment. So the first driver out on track, I believe that is going to be an Alfa Romeo. That's going to be Alfa Romeo of Mr. Tachus, our F2 champion from last season. What can the Frenchman do for the first lap around Hungary? And you can see the clouds are out. It is an overcast qualifying session, so the tyres aren't going to burn up as quickly as they will in the race. And that certainly will help towards the end of the lap. Now, for the first lap of the session, that's a little bit loud for me this evening. Unfortunately, I've got a bit of an earring, so I do apologise, folks. If the game is loud, I'm not actually going to be able to hear it. But to choose for the first few corners, it is one of those circuits where it is a gorgeous circuit to race around. It is a lot of fun to race around, but when it comes to overtaking, it is very tricky. Of course, he's going to set a purple first sector, first driver on the grid, to 27.229. And so far, the AlphaTauri of Zoltz crossed the line, no improvement for him. He's 2/10 down on the time, and Queen's up is just 600ths shy for that first sector time. So to choose so far looking very fast that first sector. No one crossing the line just yet with any pace. Never mind Mr. Colsilvi in the Alpine, new full-time driver for Alpine as of last race, improves by 1.5 tenths. Second sector to choose with a 26.970. And just behind him, Zoltz and Queens Up do not manage to find the time and improve on what Tachus is putting. Now, for the provisional pole lap, we're going to have a 1:15.867 for the Frenchman. A purple second and third sectors. We now have Zolt cross the line. He's got a fastest third sector by 5/1000th of a second. We then have in the Aston Martin, I believe that is Boosty. He's coming through with a purple middle sector at the moment. He's got a 4/10th improvement. He's going to come around and across the line now. The new provisional pole. Can he do it? He can with a 1:15.073, an incredible lap. We've still got Cos Silvi, who is on an improved lap at the back there, as he's going to come through the third sector now. Let's have a look for Cos Silvi in P13 at the moment. He's got 1.5 tenth improvement in that first sector around the final corner, and it isn't valid. And I think actually he had to sit on the side there and let a few drivers through. I was hoping to see a provisional lap, whilst not a speedy lap. Shanae as well across the line now, 1:15.7. Chris and Gigi Land, 1:15.4, 1:15.4 for the pair of them, just 3/10 splitting them apart. So 1:15.0 for Paul as Baltash crosses the line for a 1:15.8. I think we will be able to easily get into the 1:14s. That is something I think is going to be very easy for these drivers. And we've only got exactly half the grid. Let's see what Mr. Nadim can do in the AlphaTauri. First race in a very long time, and he already goes really wide out of the first corner. He does not invalidate his lap somehow, so an incredible drive so far to that first corner. He's not actually going to go for a hot lap here. I think he's just trying to learn the track again. He's abandoned that lap as well, of course. So we'll have to see. Hopefully he's got enough fuel. He'll be able to cross the line. We can see another one. What is the esports time? That was a curious question. I want to say it's a 1:13. I want to say it's like a 1:13.5. Though I feel like that's way too quick. Mr. Fat Cat with an improved time. He finds 1.5 hundredths of a second in that second sector. It goes with a 15.677 for P6. Australian driver doing quite well so far. You are going to have to see a black screen for just a moment if you bear with me. Let's reduce that and increase that. So far, it doesn't look like anyone is on a flying lap. There we go, WS. I believe it's a high 13, low 14s. Yeah, 13.5 is what my estimation is. I feel like that is way too fast for esports. If these guys are getting 15.0s, I feel like 13.5, 13.6 is going to be right on the borderline of what's possible for esports. Mr. Boosty finding some time. Second sector, he found a 10th, but I don't think it's going to be enough. Is it going to be enough? No, 8/1000ths of a second slower than his previous lap time. Flynn, welcome. Hope the scrap of your motorbike was enjoyable. Let's have a look. Mr. Vabo, the Williams reserve driver, AlphaTauri, Red Bull driver who won Tier 2. And let's see what he can do. Currently sitting in P16, Mr. Vabo has got a 27.148 in the first sector, a 26.786 in that second sector. He's going to come around the final corner. And now for his first provisional lap of the session, can the Williams driver get in the top 10? He can. He goes for P6 with a 1:15.466. He is exactly 22,000ths of a second behind Chris. And so far, this is certainly getting quite exciting with how qualifying is going, as Soybean has hit the track, and already first sector he's got 3.5/100ths of a second improvement in that first sector. Coming through the chicane now, second sector, by far the trickiest sector of the circuit with the most corners. He's got to keep it just within the bounds, almost stepping out of shape there, keeping it within the track limits, which is the white line. Purple middle sector, he finds another 10.5 in that second sector. So provisionally, we are looking at what could be a potential 14.9, perhaps a 14.8. Round the final corner comes the Red Bullman. It is his birthday, and for the provisional lap for the Red Bull Championship leader, he crosses the line with a 14.702. He beats the competition by just over 3.5 tenths actually. So birthday being on pole with an incredible first lap. And there is bound to be lap improvement. The grip will ramp up as the drivers put in more laps, lap after lap after lap. And you can have toes. You can have that impressive cutting of the air on that first DRS straight, the second DRS straight. Then you got another straight between corners 3 and 4, ending the first sector. You got another straight coming into the final few hairpins. So technically it is possible to get up to 4 straights of a driver ahead of you cutting the air for you. But realistically, is it going to be possible for Soybean to get that lucky? I think unfortunately not. I think these drivers have got to be wary of their surroundings and of course want to not help the competition behind. Let's have a look. Mr. Rico van Basten. I've definitely mispronounced that. I'm going to stick with just Rico. Racing for the CPI esports team. What can he do? He did very well in the past few races. He improves Soybean's time. I'm trying to find him. There he is. A 27.000. An 005, sorry. So Rico looking to try. So Rico has this idea that Soybean is definitely like Verstappen. And he's not going to be able to put up much of a challenge to the Red Bull driver. He does go purple in that second sector. And not only does he find improvement, he finds 3/100ths of a second improvement. And he's just got 2 corners left to go. He thinks that Soybean is the Max Verstappen of this group. I think Rico, he's got the power in him. We do have a front wing there on the circuit. Fortunately, no simulation damage is going to give him a puncture. And he crosses the line with a 14.830. Second driver to get into the 14s. And I think, let's have a look here. It is in the third sector, sorry, where he has lost the time. The third sector is where he's lost most of his time. And in the first sector, he's fairly on par with Soybean. And the last driver out for an outlap, who's still yet to set a lap, is going to be Brizin. Currently helping Ferrari lead the constructors in Tier 1. In fact, he does have a Red Bull behind, I think. Could that be Squallop behind? It is, who isn't on a lap. Right, Brizin. Let's stay on with Brizin. As he comes round the final corner, he's going to start his first flying lap of the session. 6.5 minutes remaining. Plenty of time for a second lap of the session. What can the Ferrari man do? Still hunting down his first F1 Tier 1 victory after scoring P2 in the Drivers' Championship last season and winning the Constructors for Ferrari. So what can he do in that Ferrari? He crossed the line in the speed trap, currently slowest in the speed trap with a 308. Quickly beaten by Vabo with a 306. So actually, say beaten, but Brizin with a purple first sector. I'm not sure I believe that, as Rico did put in a 27.0. Brizin with a 27.3 can't be purple first sector. The game is glitching for sure there. Now for the second sector, the trickiest of the sectors. Really got to keep it planted. The curbs are not your friends. Most of these curbs, in fact the inside curb here, is not your friend. Your car will go drifting and surfing across the top of it as Brizin does just step out of shape on the exit there. Invalidate his lap. I think he is still going to push for a lap, potentially dive straight into the pits. No, he's going to go for a lap. We're going to see what a provisional lap could have been for the Ferrari man. What could have been? It could have been a 15.7, provisionally setting him in P13, just behind Fat Cat. Big up to one of the William Reserves. William Reserves, absolutely on fire. Vabo on P10 and Bottas in P14. Both drivers, though, they may be out of the top 10, or Vabo, sorry, still in it, but Bottas just out. They are very, very quick drivers. They are dominant drivers. on tricky circuits like this. I mean, unfortunately with Tier 2 not streamed, we didn't get to see Vabo's masterclass, but he won the race there. So I have no doubt Vabo's someone to keep an eye on this race, who's going to be on the hunt for the potential back-to-back victory. Jim, the first person I hear pronouncing Baltash's name properly, he told me how to pronounce it, along with Panos and a few others. So I'm trying my best to try and pronounce everyone. I think currently the only name I can't pronounce, I do remember, the only name I can't pronounce right now is the Tier 1 driver is Martin for Aston Martin. I've only just realised that his name's Martin and he's racing for Aston Martin. That's great. But yeah, no, if I remember correctly, his name's pronounced something along the lines of Martin or Martin, but I can never find the right tang to the A in his name, so I need to work on that one. But I will eventually be able to pronounce everyone's name right. Baltash is very simple. I think I'm quite upset I didn't know it sooner. As in the midst of my rambling, we've got 2 more drivers in the 14s. We've got Cos Sylvie in P3 with a 14.9. And Boosty as well with a 14.9. GG Land just 6 1,000ths or 7 1,000ths shy of breaking into the 114. So he is very close indeed. Julian as well, just 37 thousandths off of getting into the 14.9s. But Vabo, this is where I am curious to know, can he find the time? He does improve by half a tenth. Also just behind him, Fat Cat improves by 64 thousandths a second. Chris just ahead improves by 1/100th of a second in the first sector. Vabo with a 3/10 improvement in that second sector. Mix, how are these guys this fast? I do not know. Honestly, these guys are faster than I ever could imagine. Tier 1 have gone from 10% off of esports pace to 5% kind of feeling. Vabo P8 with a 15.173. I don't know how he managed to do that. Do you remember the good old days when Pole was 15.0? I remember the good old days when people were struggling to get 15.0s with toes as well. So this is quite impressive, Belt, to see someone like Soybean out of 1 lap mix. I don't know if you were here for that, but in 1 lap, Soybean did that. He didn't do a warm-up lap. He didn't invalidate his first lap. He went out 1 lap, Wonder 14.7. Now he's on for a second lap, and he's just coming through that third sector. Mr. Birthday Bean is on for the final flying lap of the session. 2 minutes remaining, 1 minute 15 per lap on average. These guys are certainly crazy. I don't know. They must be fueled by something. It must be Rogue Energy. Use code PHX at checkout for 10% off your order. I haven't done that in a while, and I don't feel bad for that plug. Let's have a look at what Soybean can do for the final lap of Hungary. Round 7 of Season 8. Can Soybean extend his lead? As Cos in the first sector on his flying lap, he's found 6 hundredths of a second in the first sector. He loses time in the second sector. Cos Sylvie on for a lap in that third sector at the moment, as he is sitting in P2 with a 14.777. In fact, he crosses the line with a 14.777. Alfa Romeo just drifting out of the way. First sector is finished, and Soybean finds some time, but not much. He only finds 18 thousandths of a second now into the chicane. Mr. Birthday Bean, can he find the time? He does have a little bit of traffic ahead of him. The Haas is out of the way. You can see on the minimap, look at the number of dots on the minimap in the bottom right-hand corner. This is incredible to see. So many drivers out for a lap. Soybean hopefully does not get held up. AlphaTauri is just in the way. He spins. Soybean perhaps losing a little bit of time there now with just a couple corners left to go. Can he keep it tidy? He does have a car in the way. He's in fact got a second car just ahead of him round the final corner. There is a Haas ahead of him. He's going to get a little bit of a tow, and now to the line. Did Soybean manage to save some time? He does. It is a 14.553. I'm struggling for numbers, but how on earth, out of all of that traffic, Soybean still comes across the line and improves by 0.2 of a second. How does he still manage that? As Cos Sylvie has retired from the session there. And that's going to be the end of qualifying for the Alpine. Soybean, that is going to be him done. Rico crosses the line now. As this yellow flag can go, we're able to see how long is left. There it is. Checkered flag is out. So everyone is on their final lap. Zolt is done. Soybean is done. Cos is done. Drive is going to be rapidly rapidly crossing the line. I'm going to struggle to be able to catch up with all of them, but to choose cross the line with a 15.446, 2/1000ths of a second off of Chris. Scallop goes for P13 with a 1:15.478. Rico SK, a former champion, has gone 17th with a 16.179. That is a time I did not expect, as Vabo goes in the pit, sitting in P8 provisionally at the moment with a 15.173, just 0.07 of a second off of P7 at the moment. As Mix now crossed the line, a 1:15.192, demoted down to 10th place as Fat Cat goes 15th, 1:15.78. Julian with a 14.9 now. We've got 5 drivers in the 1:14s, 14.9 for the Alpine and 14.93 for Boosie and P4. So second row for the Aston Martin driver. Here comes Rico now for the final couple corners. He does have, I think that's an Alpine driver just ahead of him. Shanae is still on a lap as well, so we'll jump back to him in a second. But Rico is going to cross the line now with P2. It is going to be a 1:14.773, beating Cos Silvi by just 4/1000ths of a second. As we jump on board Shanae now, as he is coming around the final few corners, unfortunately is not on a flying lap. And that is going to be the end of qualifying. Shockingly bad from Mix. I mean, that's still a top 10 finish. Look at how close the timings is. Do not put yourself down that early. You are just 6/10 shy of pole position and still in the top 10. It is incredibly close qualifying. We have ourselves a 1 second gap between P14 and P1. This is incredibly close by all the drivers here. And this was under overcast. So overcast conditions, the tyres aren't going to heat up as much. They're not going to burn as much. They will be able to last a lot longer. 2.5 tenths is the gap between P1 and P2, but 4/1000 between P2 and P3. It is 1 second splitting the top 14. I am astonished by that. Well done, Fat Cat, with P7. Absolutely incredible drive for the Aston Martin team principal, reserving in for Mercedes. But there you have it, folks. Unfortunately, Nadeem, previous F1 champ, has gone for P19 with a 1:22.8, which is a lap time I did not expect. Brizin at the back of the grid as well, opting to not put in a lap. Perhaps the second lap, I think, was he just invalidating that third sector again. He looks like he was going to set a 15.7 again. So the Ferrari man with an unfortunate end there of qualifying. Vers, who let him cook? Well, Fat Cat, honestly, he just cooked it up himself. He cooked up a storm in that Mercedes car. And whilst we wait for the drivers to get ready, set up their tyre strategy, their fuel, their race setups, I just want to say that Mercedes livery for this next season is absolutely gorgeous. Some of the liveries, I'm curious to know your thoughts, folks, but some of the liveries that have come out for this season are pretty fantastic. Red Bull is by far at the bottom of the leaderboard, though, for the liveries, because they just have the same thing every year. But Ferrari with the yellow, the Williams as well, the V-carb. I'm going to struggle to say V-carb when we're doing the commentary for the 24 game, but I will do my best. The Ferrari with the yellow strip, the black and the silver for the Mercedes. It's incredible to see. The creativity that some of these teams have come through. And although I don't like what Alfa Romeo have done, no longer Alfa Romeo, it's what, Stake F1 team at this point. Or something along those lines, because they've got to change their name for two races of the calendar. Stake F1 team, they actually have a nice car. I have to admit that. The green is out there. It's not something I expected, but it was still a nice surprise to see such vibrant colours on an F1 car. Now let's have a quick look. I think, let's see what the drivers are doing. I think, are they waiting for me to put the message? I'm not certain, but I'll put the message anyways to get them to ready up if they haven't already. Be funny if the 5 red lights go when I'm writing up this message to the drivers. We'll find out now if they haven't readied up already. Stake F1 team kicks Sauber. Yeah, I'm just going to stick with Sauber, honestly. Stake or Sauber. Stake goes down the inside. Sauber sounds better. They've kicked the competition and Sauber goes down the inside. Oh my god, best team in the world. Lost 2 or 3 10s because I didn't practice. Mix, stop cranking those 90s in Fortnite and I think you'll be good to go, honestly. I'm not calling them Toro Rosso. Here we go. They've already readied up 5 red lights, Alfa Romeo and Red Bull on the front row of the grid. Competition between friends, the birthday boy and the Rico goat. And away we go. There's a lockup there. The Haas has actually gone a little slowly. Can we get a better angle? There we go. Almost 3 wide. In fact, it is going to be 3 wide into the first corner. 4 wide, nearly 5 wide at the back of the grid. Double Haas. There is people going bowling. And unfortunately, Rico has been spun round. Oh my god, there's a lot of position change. I'm going to try and struggle. I'm going to try and keep up with everything. But the team has retired. Zolt has retired. Both AlphaTauris are out of the session. We have a full course caution. I think that's going to be a full safety car. Mix is out of the session. Gigi Land is into the lead of the race. Boosty in P2. I'm not sure who this house driver is. I think that's AM7 sitting in P3. Soybean down to P4. Queen's up with a pen. That is a major incident. A lot has happened at the start of that race. Mix, welcome back. Very unfortunate end. Please do tell me what happened. I don't know what just happened, but we have had a massive, massive shake-up on the order. If we have a look at the position changes, there you have it. Boltash down 2 positions. Fat Cat down 9. Rico up 3. Brizen up 6. Vambo down 4. Queen's up 5. We've got a lot of position changes. Mr. Tachus and Chris have gone up by 6 places. Amir, which is AM7, for those of you who don't know, Amir up to 5 positions, along with Gigi Lan onto the lead of the race, and Boosty up 2 places. What happened there? I am so confused. Mix calling for desync there. Unfortunately, Mix, the call is out of my hands. I need to see what the stewards, I say the stewards, but the control team say if they are watching. But at the time being, for the time being, sorry, it is looking like it will be still going. It is green for now. Gigi Land is into, okay, Mix, you could definitely use some better phrases for that. Gigi Land on for the lead of the race. It has been the first time since Monza that he has been leading the pack. Boosty up there in P2. AM7, a name we have not seen in a very long time, up into P3. And Soybean down to P4, Cosd P5, Chris, Tachus, Julian, Scallop, and Shanae's the top 10 for you. Nadim, unfortunately, it is out of my hands as commentator. I cannot call for a red flag. It is down to the control team. I have to wait for their call. I think safety car should be in the next lap. You know what? Let's get the telemetry up. Let's have a look and see when is Gigi Land gonna go flying. So last time leading the race, as I mentioned, it was at Monza. It was a wet circuit at Monza. It was actually one of the few races, one of the 2 races this season where we disabled safety car in the hopes to improve the racing. And it certainly did improve it, and Gigi Land had an incredible race, but unfortunately for him, the stewards, after reviewing the reports, did deem him at fault for spinning out another driver, which lost him his podium at that race. But he did have an excellent safety car restart, an excellent session to at least stay in the top 3 for the full duration of, what is that, 25 laps or 33 laps? I can't remember how many laps it is around Monza, to be honest. But the pack is now all together, and we should be going live soon. Vers, you and me both. I am also quite confused to see. I mean, we did see 4 wide. We had the double Haas. We had an Alfa Romeo in the middle of a Haas sandwich with an Alpine on the outside, if I remember correctly. Rico as well went down the inside, or was defending the inside. I just saw 2 rows of 4 cars, and I did not know what to say. I completely froze, because I have not seen so many daring drivers to go for an opportunistic move. Thankfully, I'm not saying it's good that Nadim, Zoltz, and Mix have retired, but thankfully it was only 3 cars that retired. It wasn't half the grid. But it is also very, very upsetting to see some mighty competition out of this race. AlphaTauri out of the points entirely there. And there we have it. Safety car is in this lap. GG Land is going to lead the pack, and we're going to sit on board with him. Watch his telemetry. See when is he going to pull the trigger on the soft compound tyres. If we have a quick look. Oh, I just pressed push to talk there. If we have a look at the tyres there, he is going to have the advantage. Same advantage as Boosty. Amir on the medium. Soybean on the hards will explain why he had a horrendous start, along with his teammate Scarlett Brisen as well at the back of the grid with Vabo on the hards. And he's going to come around the final corner, and he is full. There it is, ERS, and away we go. We are starting with the safety car restart already. We have ourselves a 4.5 gap between P1 and P2, and into the first corner. It is still going to be GG Land for the lead of the race. And there is a couple of moves at the back there. Scarlett gets ahead of Shanae on the hard tyres, still managing to find the pace, perhaps warming up the tyres beautifully. And in fact, we're going to continue to see a battle there. Shanae goes just a little bit wide. Now into that hairpin. Now for the third corner. And he manages to squeeze just ahead of the Ferrari, just behind him. And he keeps that position. Beautiful moves so far from so many drivers. As, pardon me, swallow my words there, is we have Chris and Cos just having a bit of a moment there, banging wheels with one another. In fact, it's now put Cos in a fight with Tachus at the back there, now having to defend. It's an Alpine sandwich between Cos, Tachus, and Julian. Can Tachus get out of this? He did just have a moment there, a bit of a squirrely moment there. And he is on the mediums. He's on the same tyre as the competition around him. And down the inside goes Julian. It's going to be very close between the pair of them. Tachus with the inside line. He's going to have the tighter, the easier line into the final hairpin. He gets ahead of the Alpine now. If we clear this off the side of my screen, as Tachus still maintains P7, as GG Land crossed the line with a 17.744, still leads the pack by 5.5 tenths, but Amir is 2 seconds off of the top 2. So Amir is in his own race, leading his own pack for P3 at the moment. What happened to Mix? Mix, unfortunately, was involved in a major first lap incident. Mick, Zoltz, and Nadim all retired before the first corner, or just after the first corner, sorry. It was a chaotic start-go, honestly. I still haven't quite understood what happened. I think the top 2 went 2 wide, then we had a 4 wide, then a 3 wide, then a 4 wide, basically. And, well, 4 cars can't go into one corner, is the maths I've worked out there, and I think everyone else has worked out quite quickly as well. For the 5th lap of this race, coming through that third sector, or second sector, you can see quite how big that gap is. 7 tenths between P1 and P2. GG Land is flying on his softs. So he's got to be careful, though, how much he's choosing to use up those softs before they start to really lose that grip. But now 2.5 tenths, or 2.5 seconds between the top 2 and the rest of the grid behind. Portugal last season. What happened in Portugal last season? Massive pile-up. I do remember that. Yeah, it was kind of similar to that. It was kind of similar to that. Thankfully, less drivers seemingly got damaged. No one pitted on the safety car. So, yeah. Happy I can breathe for a week. Yeah, I bet you are. But now we've got a few moves going on at the back there as Shanae's trying to battle for position. We've then got, is that Queen's up, going to go for a move on Squall up into the hairpin now. We're going to stay on board here with Shanae as he goes 2 wide now. There goes the Ferrari and the Red Bull. Now the Williams and the Mercedes sister teams are battling it out for position. And Shanae with that outside line, I think he might just have to cede this position. No, he doesn't. He gets ahead. Shanae ahead of Baltash and remains in P13. For a very tricky circuit, for a circuit where it is very difficult to overtake. There is a lot of drivers really pushing the limits, trying to go for a move in some of the trickiest corners of the session. As someone's just gone off the track, there goes Fat Cat. Fat Cat coming out of the chicane, he's lost the car, he's gone into the wall. Mercedes reserve driver and Aston Martin team principals now out of the session as Sinead goes on for P12. No safety car. His car is off of the out of the way as Scollop has a moment there into the second final hairpin, and he is now cutting the grass there. So Sinead up into P11. Unfortunately, Vers, I think you might have to be right. It was a moment there for Fat Cat as he plummets into the wall. Williams looking for a move at the back there. Vabo going down the inside on Brizen. A superb move by the Tier 2 champ, or the Tier 2 winner, as he gets through now for P14. Williams, though, I have to say this now, Williams are currently out of the points, but do not fret. They are fast drivers, they are rapid, they are aggressive, but they are patient as well. They are going to make their moves count, and they are going to be drivers that are going to be in the points without a doubt at the end of this race. So we've got to be careful on P12 and P14. As we see there, Baltash just goes a bit wide. He does snap back onto the track. I think there was a bit of contact there. But Vabo and Baltash, two drivers to keep an eye on for certain, who are at the back of the grid. Rico's not had a great qualifying so far. He qualified in P17. He's only up to P15 with 4 retirees. So Rico's got quite some work to do. And Brizen, who didn't set a lap in qualifying, started P20, now up to P14. It is looking like the back of the grid just having not the best of time around Hungary at the moment. We'll have to see, as we're going to see Boosty go down the inside. I just caught that in the corner of my eye. Boosty now takes the lead of the race with the DRS advantage. He's going to get himself a second helping of DRS on this second straight now, and gap GG Land behind as Col Sylvie just gets ahead of Chris. So both McLarens have lost out on a position on that DRS straight. Now as we come in towards the second sector, Boosty is going to lead the pack, 3.5 tenths between Boosty and GG Land. Perhaps GG Land pushed his tyres just a little too much there, as Amir has still got himself a 4-second gap ahead, but he's got himself a soybean, a rapid birthday bean, sorry, right on his tail. The hard compound tyre is on his car, sorry, and will soon be turning his way. If I have a quick look here, we're going to see that the mediums, or the hard, sorry, wear 2.8% per lap. The mediums wear roughly 3.2% per lap, and the softs go for 4.3. So the hards will come into the window of opportunity around 9 laps, I believe, over the softs, and there'll be about 10 to 12 laps for the mediums. Williams getting a 1-2 trust, beating all the normal drivers. We'll have to see. I think Williams are going to be quite the competition. I mean, they are winning in terms of the total constructors. Tiers 1, 2, and 3. Absolutely insane. And here comes Soybean now with the DRS. Smooth sailing for the Birthday Bean. I'm going to stick with Birthday Bean for the rest of the session as he gets through comfortably now for the second DRS straight, with a Cos Sylvie right on his tail, going for the move round the outside. Can he stick it round the outside? He can't. Unfortunately, just runs out of space, and unfortunately not got enough speed to catch up. But both Alpines are on the hunt. Julian, 1.6 seconds behind. Chris just behind. Rico has climbed his way up to P8, and he goes purple in that first sector. That is AM7 in the Haas. He is a full-time driver now, and he is absolutely flying. Recently signed on as well with Formula Esports team PR, so it was very good to see some of these drivers. You can see with their name tags. You got V10, you got CPI PR. I believe SM is also another esports team. So a lot of these drivers are incredibly quick because they are being signed on by esports teams, and it is an absolute delight to see, but it's also terrifying to know that we are hosting races for some of the fastest drivers we've ever seen, fast enough that esports teams are willing to go out there, reach out, and grab them up. As we're going to see Rico now get a move done on the McLaren man. Chris, unfortunately, just a sitting duck on the straight, can't do anything to defend. And with a second helping of DRS, Rico's going to close that gap down to Julian. And I think he can smell P6 in the air for the next lap, without a doubt, as we now reach closer to the 1/3 mark as Baltash goes through on a beautiful move. Was that a double move? I just missed out a double overtake, I think, for Boltash. Or perhaps Queen's Up has lost two. He has lost two positions. Slight drift there into the second corner. Boltash up to P12. Brazen up to P13. It is starting to quieten down. The overtakes are certainly starting to calm down on this track. Soybean, though, whilst the overtakes have taken a step back, the pace has ramped up. Soybean is now 1.9 seconds away from GGland. These two drivers, P1 and P2, were in a race of their own for about 10 laps. They had a nice cushion, a 4-second cushion behind them, but Soybean is on the hunt, Koz is on the hunt, and Amir is trying to hold on as much as he can to P5 because he's got Julian closing in slowly, and there it is. Rico, I said it was going to be this lap. Rico is now 7.5 tenths, 7 tenths behind. The soft compounds are now across the board around 35%, so they're in their drop-off for the pace. Mediums are now in play for the power. The strategies that I have here for great race pace, going from the softs to the hards, and I believe that's what some of these drivers are going to try and do. They're going to go for a lap 12 to 14, 12 to 15 pit stop, off of the softs onto the hards. But if they choose to go for the mediums, it has to be P15. So it is going to be quite interesting to see what strategy they're going to go for. And whilst we're in the middle sector, I'm just going to take a moment to have a sip of water, so bear with me, folks. As we now approach the pit window, the average pit stop, if I recall correctly, is going to be around 21 seconds. So drivers have got to make sure they choose the right time to pit. And Boosty already 1.2 seconds. He's managed to completely clear GGland behind as Julian goes down the inside. A superb move by the Alpine man. Now it's an Alpine 4-5 as he gets through and ahead of AM7. To have a look, so pit stop loss is 20 seconds. So call it 21 seconds. Because you can get optimal pit stops, you can get green pit stops, red pit stops, so it changes everything. But optimal is 20 seconds in the pits. Yeah, I still somehow managed to get 21 seconds in my own practice, so that's quite incredible how I'm managing to get suboptimal with purple stops. Closest fight on the grid right now is going to be Rico and Amir here. CPI versus PR here at Phoenix Simsport. All the abbreviations, PHX, CPI, and PR in a battle for P6 at the moment. And it has really started to quieten down. Hasn't been an overtake for some time now. Rico, hopefully, can he go for the move this lap? Soybean gets through ahead of GGland. Rico is closing it in, but he's not going to be close enough. With a 3/10th gap, can he get the DRS advantage on this second straight? He can't. For a second there, I thought he wasn't going to stop in time, but he does manage to stop just in time. But I think now we're going to see drivers try and look to pit very soon. GGland, 13 laps. He does go wide just there. His softs are absolutely shredded. All soft compound tyres. We've got Queen's Up, Boltash, Chris, GGland, and Boosty are all pushing 50% very soon. So this is getting very tricky for these drivers on the soft compound tyres to try and keep it on the circuit. And if we have a quick look for a moment, gain per lap. So some information for ERS around this circuit. So we had Spain. Spain was an absolute ERS consumer. Drivers could not recharge their batteries. Even going into the pits would only recharge you by 20%. I thought for a second that GGland was going to pit. He's not going to pit just yet. I think he's going to try and go for lap 15. So we'll have to see as he crosses the line for lap 14. 1 lap to go before I believe the McLaren man is going to pit. But you gain 17% here at the circuit, as we see Cos Silvi. What is that timing? Cos Silvi with a brilliant move down the inside. Small lockup from GG Land there, I believe. And comfortable move for Cos Silvi. Now the hunt is on for P2, sorry. God, I love that phrase, don't I? I need to find a new phrase. Apologies, folks. As I was saying, ERS gain in the pit stop is 17%. You use 7% per lap, but you can also gain 6% with no usage. So it is possible to recharge. But I think some of these drivers have used up a lot. My question though, when are the softs going to pit? Baltash has pitted already. He's on the mediums now. It was a 2.24 pit stop for him. So far a very good stop for the Williams driver. But when will the rest of the drivers pit? When will Baltash, it's not Baltash, sorry. Queens Up, GG Land, or Boosty pit? As Boosty's got himself a 1.5 second gap to Birthday Bean behind. There goes GG Land now, finally. There we go. This is where excitement starts to ramp up once again as GG Land is going to box. Boosty continues on the soft compound tire, somehow keeping up the pace relatively well with a 1.5 second gap to Birthday Bean behind. Chris as well, he's not going to box. Of course, his teammate is in the box. He's going to lose a lot of time and a lot of positions if he does double stack. And he's going to try and go for a move. Can he go for the switchback on Shanae? Unfortunately, no DRS for Chris. And Shanae with the inside line now into that hairpin. And the mediums, of course, still having that grip. He almost kept the position. Shanae just on the exit now of turn 4, loses out. P8 to Chris, still on the soft, still with that grip. It is incredible to see as Queens Up comes out the pits with a 2.22 pit stop. Vabo with a 7 pit stop, so perhaps he had some front wing damage there or went in a little bit slow for the box. I think 7 seconds will be not getting optimum on turn-in time. As Vabo now gets a 3-second time penalty. A lot of time penalties for this race. Of course, we've got 3 drivers here with 5 seconds, or at least we have 3 now. It's just Julian and Shanae with 5 seconds after that massive incident in the first sector, in the first corner of this race. In the first lap is now Cos, Sylvie, and Soybean box. So Birthday Bean is now into the lead of the race. Cos on the mediums has boxed as well. So Cos, what could he be going for? It could be the softs for 20 laps, though. Is that possible? It's not going to be possible. It's the hard compound tire for Cos Silvia as he comes out now in P9. And Boosty is, or P10, sorry, and Boosty is just going to come out in P9 now as well. So both drivers have opted to box now for their tires. Cos Silvia, though, to my surprise, did box quite early, especially starting on the mediums. So perhaps trying to look to go for an undercut. We'll have to see as Rico has a 4-second gap to his friend and his enemy ahead. Soybean and Rico. This is by far one of the closest championships we've had in a long time. Last season was quite exciting between Brizan and Panos took it right at the final moment. But right now for this race, for this season, Soybean is in the lead by 6 points, if I recall correctly. 99 points versus 93 points. Can Rico manage to get his car up there, outscore Soybean, perhaps on the optimum strategy? Of course, ending on the softs is going to be possible for both drivers. Soybean will have to box around lap 20 to 25 to want to box for the softs. Rico will want to box around the same time, but the mediums aren't going to last that far. As Julian now, so the Alpine pair have served their mandatory stop as Julian goes in now off of the mediums. Techus up into P7, 3 seconds is his gap to Amir. It is getting very close. The mediums have certainly got the pace. Chris still out. Chris has still got the pace on the softs. How is he still going? I have no clue. He's got DRS on Shanae now. Shanae's in P5. So Mercedes looking at a provisional good spot for points. But of course, the top 6 drivers still have to serve their mandatory stop along with Brizan, who is still on the 16 old lap hards. Scollop as well in P14 on the original hards as well. Julian with a very good stop, a 2.24 pit stop for him. Now, I am very curious to know if I'm not sure if McLaren do have an engineer, or if they do have an engineer, if they're available to pop in the chat. But I am curious to know how Chris feels about his tires, because surely they are sliding everywhere. I don't know how he's managing to stay within a second of Shanae ahead, as he does just drop outside of that second now, with Boosty right on his tail. Boosty now with the fresh tires. He's going to go for a clean move, and there it is. Finally, Chris is going to box Shanae as well, and it is now the top 4 who have not pitted yet. Soybean with a 4.5 second gap to Rico behind. Rico with a 1.4 second gap to AM7, or Amir behind. And it is a 4 second gap to Chu. So both Alfa Romeos have got almost matching times to the drivers ahead of them. It is 4.2 for the pair of them. And Boosty, he is looking to gain quite a number of positions with that early safety car. No one boxed at all in that early safety car. It didn't change any strategy for anyone. But it has certainly helped bring Rico. I say it helped Rico come back into the competition. Rico, with that very early spin, certainly has the pace, the dominance on this circuit. And against the other drivers to be able to get through up into P2. But does he have the pace? The pit window for the hards and the mediums are about to open. Mediums will be around, let's have a look here. If they're going to go soft medium, or medium soft, is going to be around lap 14 is the optimum strategy. But no, sorry, for oh, there we go, never mind. Throw my phone out the window. The top 3 have boxed, and I think Tachus, of course, will not go for the double stack, so he's going to try and defend from Boosty behind. Boosty's going to go flying through for the lead of the race now, as Boosty gets the fastest lap of the session. It's a 1:17.659. Have a look at the tyres, as the top 4 have boxed. And we have Soybean on the mediums, Rico on the mediums, Amir on the hards, and Brizen on the mediums. Hold on a minute. Wasn't Rico on the mediums? Soybean with a 14-second pit stop. Soybean lost a lot of time in the pits, apparently, which I don't believe is true. Alright, we are on for the end of the race now, for 26 laps remaining to choose the final, or one of the final drivers still yet to box. Scallop still out on the old hards, 18-lap-old hards for Scallop, 18-lap-old mediums for Tachus. With 20 seconds to be lost in the pits, let's have a look at gap to leader. Mr. Tachus is going to go down to around about P10 when he boxes. And there it is. That is going to be his moment to box. Good stop for Tachus. He goes onto the soft compound tyres for 15 laps in this race. I mean, it is certainly possible. Chris going 17, 18 laps on those softs. Tachus is going to have quite some pace in his hands for the rest of this race, or at least for the next 10 laps, but will it last the 15 laps? And this is on the assumption we have no safety car, no VSC, nothing of that kind to bunch up the grid. Can Tachus pull this off? Kosilvi, half a second back on GG Land. He's going to have a helping of DRS on that main straight if he doesn't manage to take the position before then. But it is looking provisionally with 15 laps remaining. Boosty on for P1 for Aston Martin. GG Land on for P2 for McLaren. It is Alpine in P3 and Birthday Bean in for P4. I'm going to go back to Soybean. But Soybean is looking at a provisional P4 as Rico before the DRS straight into the final hairpin. He gets ahead of Vabo. He waits for the perfect time, but he doesn't want to wait for that DRS straight. He gets ahead 5.5 seconds. I think he managed to just maintain behind him. Let's have a quick look. He hasn't got the DRS. It is going to be the Williams who's going to have that DRS, and he's going to try and close that gap down. He's going to have a second helping of DRS. Rico is still going to be in the lead of this battle, but can the Williams, can Vabo close this gap down? Can he go for a move down the inside? He's not quite close enough, but it is now down to the second sector. If he keeps it close, They are on very, very mismatched tyres, but the pace is quite... I'm going to be optimistic and say they are equal for pace, because they are two very quick drivers who are very worthy for a Tier 1 victory. Soybean now pushing Cos Sylvie ahead, 2.5 tenths between Cos and Soy. And he's going to try and go for the move down the inside. He does push the Alpine just a little bit there, but good racing room left. Into the second hairpin, into the final hairpin now. Soybean is ahead, and he's not... Is he going to have DRS? I don't think he's going to have DRS to defend himself. He's going to be at the strike of Alpine behind. Does he have DRS? I can't tell. He does not. So Alpine, with the pace advantage, still does not manage to close that gap down. And if we have a look at the speed trap, Cos Sylvie is the fastest with a 3.23, while Soybean has only got a 3.15. So there's a 7, or what is that, 8 kilometers per hour improvement and pace advantage to Soybean, as GG Land has lost out on the position as well. I think a mistake there for GG Land. Soybean through to P2 with an 8-second gap to Boosty ahead. He does have 3 lap pressure mediums, but is that 3 laps going to be the make or break for Soybean to win this race, or for Boosty to win it into the chicane? Beautiful chicane, love the sparks. Low ride height, for some of these cars. Of course, you want to have the downforce, have that grip going through the second sector, the third sector as well, but the first sector, it's all about speed. It's all about clean air. Robin McQueen thanks Soybean for GG Land. I think the stewards are going to have a nice fun time on Tuesday to review an incident between Red Bull and McLaren there. So we have a yellow flag in the second sector, and that's going to be for Scollop, who, going through the chicane, not having a fun time. Unfortunately, Red Bull have got half of the garage cheering on, and half the garage quite upset. But it happens. It is a tricky circuit. It can happen to the best of us, and unfortunately, Scollop, that is going to be his race weekend. Safety car is going to be, realistically, for Red Bull to try and get double points. I think safety car is going to be the best chance, best window of opportunities. GG Land comes down to P5 now. Amir up into P6. Techus on the hunt with the softs. He gets ahead and into the points now. As that will be the end of the race for Scollop. There it is. Unfortunately, Scollop not having a delightful weekend. Ends it on lap 23 of 35. Red Bull still, though, with one driver on for P2. 7 seconds is the gap to P1. And with 8 laps remaining, he's got to improve by around about just over a lap per second if he wants to try and get the move done as well. And if we have a look at last lap, Soybean 18.4 and Boosty an 18.7. So he has got the pace, but I don't think he's got the pace to beat Boosty. I think I might have jinxed it too early. Perhaps Soybean is going to just absolutely rapidly cross the line, and he does. I have jinxed it. Last lap, Mr. Boosty in the Aston Martin at 1:19.5. Perhaps a mistake was made for the Aston Martin driver. And it is a 1:17.992. It is a 1.5 second improvement between P1 and P2. This is slowly going to get closer and closer. It is like Jaws. We need a Jaws theme song right about now. Soybean with a 1.5 second improvement. Julian now, 3-second time penalty for track limits. A lot of drivers falling victim to track limits. Queen's up with 9, Rico SK with 3, Julian, Vabo, and Amir all with 3, sitting from P8 to P6. Alpha looking good. Alpha's looking in a strong position. We've currently got double points on the table for Alfa Romeo, for McLaren, and for the Alpine. So it is 3 teams looking to score double points at the moment. And only a few teams have got 1 driver left on the grid. We've got Mix, TP for Haas, unfortunately retired at the start of the session. He's only got 1 driver, and that's Amir sitting in P6. We got Fat Cat, reserve driver Hold that thought. Rico goes down the inside with the DRS and finally gets that move done on Cos Silvi. Now up on for the podium position. He's got a 4-second gap, 4.2-second gap to Soybean, while Soybean's got a 4.5-second gap to Boosty with 10 laps remaining. And the last lap, Soybean with a whopping 1.2-second improvement. He is finding time, and he's got the grip. Of course, the tyre advantage will go Soybean's favor with a 3-lap advantage. But can they close the gap down equally? I want to see a very clean battle between 4 drivers, and I think it is going to be possible if Cos Silvi sticks on the rear with Rico, just holds on for that DRS. Rico versus Soybean versus Boosty and Cos, all of them for P1. That is what I'm hoping for. Rico with the fastest lap at the moment at 1:17.397. But as I was mentioning earlier, it was a 1.2-second gap between Soybean and Boosty. It is a 4/10 slower lap for Rico on Cos, but of course he has just gone for the move on Cos. Now let's have a look at what he can do as they cross the line. It is a 1:19.4 for Boosty. It is a 1:18.3 for Soybean. It's a 1:18.1 for Rico. It is a 1.1-second gap between Soybean and Boosty, and it is a 2/10 gap between Rico and Soybean. They are closing the gap slowly. To choose who opted to pit for the soft 6 laps ago, I'm not certain that was going to be the optimal strategy for the Frenchman, unfortunately. As he is in P9, he's got a 2.5-second gap ahead of him to Julian. And of course, after penalties, he may be able to score that position from Julian, perhaps even from Vabo. But I think more points could have been on line for the choose for the Frenchman if he opted to go for perhaps the mediums to the end of the race. Of course, starting on the mediums. Can't go for the medium. As you did see there for a moment, Boltash crossing the line 1:17.201, beating the last fastest lap by 0.2 of a second. Fortunately, with Hungary being the track that it is, with overtaking being as difficult as it is, as Shanae now gets a 3-second time penalty, battles are scarce. As Julian now is the only battle, the closest battle within a second to the driver ahead for DRS for the drag reduction system. The Williams goes to the inside. Julian is going to join him, trying to grab as much of a toe as he can. You can see the flashing red light as Queens Up has retired from the session. Unfortunately, on track retirement for the Ferrari driver. Julian with that DRS was on the hunt, had the speed, had the DRS. Didn't need the ERS at all to get ahead of the Williams driver. Julian now P7, Vabo down to P8. Down to the final 8 laps of this race. Gigi Land now receives a 3-second time penalty. It is a clump of drivers there now from P5 to P8 with the penalties. It is getting awfully close. 0.7 is the gap. Or the time difference between Soybean and Boosty last lap. It is interesting. I have to say, it is extremely interesting to know that whilst they have quite awfully similar tyres, it is just 38% versus 28%. Soybean somehow consistently, they just crossed the line now with a half-second improvement, or half-second difference. Soybean consistently finds the time, and he's closing that gap down like there is no tomorrow. There is talk between Rico, there is talk for Soybean to call that this is his Verstappen season. And I think it just could be. I'm not going to jinx it yet. Touch wood, nothing happens to any of the drivers on the grid for the rest of this race. But it's a 2.7 second gap now between Soybean and Boosty, and only 7 laps remaining. For a very quiet circuit, there is still a lot of intrigue and interest going on. As a Tachus now receives a 3-second time penalty. The soft compound tyres for the Frenchman, unfortunately, now out of the track limits, receiving a 3-second time penalty that cannot be served in the pits. is now P5 to P9 with the penalty. So Chris, if he closes that gap down, if he closes it in by half a second, he could look to gain a few positions, as it is now just a 2/10 gap between Boosty and Soybean. Soybean also improving on Rico behind 2/10 to the pair of them around. It is getting very quiet on the track now with 5 laps to go. It is now just an endurance race to the end of this, to the checkered flag. How much longer can these drivers be patient for? GG Land now under pressure from Julian. 4.5 tenths is the gap as Boltash gets through and ahead of Shanae. But we're going to stay on board here with Julian as he's got himself in a bit of a sandwich here. He's got GG Land ahead of him, 3.5 tenths, and Vabo behind, 9.5 tenths. Vabo, hopefully he can keep that gap up, or cut that gap down, sorry, and stay within that DRS window. Julian looking for a move. He is closing in. He is closing in fast to GG Land. Alpine versus McLaren for P6. Potentially Williams involved in the battle as well. If Vabo can keep up the pace, he can close that gap down, get within half a second. When it comes to that DRS straight, it could be the potential for a double overtake as Julian and Vabo could go through and ahead of GG Land. The tyre advantage is in the favour of Vabo and Julian, whilst the tyre difference may just be 2 laps between GG Land and Julian, and Julian, it can be quite a bit. Do a poll again. What do you mean do a poll again? Do you mean poll as in questioning poll, or do you mean poll as in like check pole position? I'm very confused, Bobby, what you said there. Could just be me, but you have confused me with that. Who will win? Fortunately, I can't do that, because if I tab out, it will you'll have to see nothing but emptiness at the moment. But do let me know in the chat. At least let me know in the chat who you think's going to win out of the top 3. I'm going to say top 4. Anything can happen with Cos Sylvie and Rico. Of course, Boosty could very easily do a quick 360 spin, lose 3 seconds. Soybean could do a 360 spin, lose 6 seconds. Who knows what can happen? This is, after all, Hungary. And, well, we've had our fair share of spins. We've had Soybean, as he quoted it, race like a grandma around Brazil. Rico with a nice spin to lose 3 seconds as well to Cos Sylvie. And then we had, for Spain, Rico was also on the hunt. He also had quite a nice battle and a bit of a moment going off into the gravel. A Soybean crossed the line to try and win the race, but Cos Sylvie came out on top to win that race. So, you know, anything can happen when it comes to the final lap of the race. As we see that Soybean is now down to 1.7 seconds. As they cross the line now, lap 32 or 35. Wobby predicts he's going to win. Well, Wobby, if you're going to win from the engineer's box, that is quite impressive. You must be setting lap times of 0. Last lap, it is a half-second advantage to Soybean still. A 14.9 for the Aston Martin, an 18.9 for the Red Bull. It is a 19... 14.9? What am I on about? 19.4, sorry, for Boosty. An 18.9 for Soybean, and a 19.4 again for Rico. So Rico now matching our driver in the lead of the race for his pace. But Soybean is still finding time. How on earth is he doing this? I would love for the drivers, for Boosty, for Soybean, Rico, and Cos. Just teach me the ways of driving. I don't know how you do this. SKG Racing League, welcome to the chat. How on earth do you drive at this pace for so many laps, consistently, time in, time out, not lapsing focus on what is going on? I have hydrated, thank you very much. But what on earth? I will never understand this. Every race, I will never understand this. Cos Sylvie still with the fastest in the speed speed trap, sorry. Boosty with the slowest of the running drivers. Julian and Vabo now with the DRS. They're going to try and close that gap down. I think Gigiland going to the inside. He's going to stick beautifully ahead of the drivers. Hydrate again. My points spent for nothing. I have hydrated, and I'm now going to wait for the end of the race. I'll make sure to drink at the end of the race so you don't waste your points. And checking P1, this is where the race is now going to start to really get exciting. We've got two battles on the grid at the moment. We've got ourselves a battle between Vabo, Julian, and Gigiland. 3 drivers fighting for P6, and they all have penalties, so it is a matter of who finishes ahead of who for that place. But Soybean and Boosty, this is the battle I have been waiting patiently for 13 laps to see. Is now Soybean breaks into that 1 second gap. I'm not going to talk about the DRS. I'm just going to say that they are quite close for ERS, is what I'll say. There is no time to take a breath. Take a breath? I think I need to take a breath with the fact that I mispronounced that. But there is no time to take a breath, as now Soybean is now in that 1 second gap. We have 6 sectors to go before the end of this race. Soybean 8.5 tenths behind and closing in quickly. He does have DRS. He's going to come around that second corner. Beautiful, long sweeping left-hander. Quick right-hander. You can mount a lot of that curb. Not too much, of course. You don't want to hook your tire on the edge of that curb and lose the car. 8.5 tenths for the second sector. If he keeps this up, and he's going to keep it up beautifully as he cuts it down to 6.5 tenths, 2 tenths in one corner. I think Boosty just might be struggling for his tires. In fact, a lot of the drivers will be, as they all start to push and hit 50% on their tires. Boosty, for the final lap and a half, has got 60% on his tires, while Soybean has 50. It is very close between the pair of them. It is a 3/10 difference in that first sector. It is a 2/10 difference in that second sector. Soybean, I don't know what he drinks. He must be drinking Rogue Energy. Use code PHX at checkout for 10% off your order. That's the second plug in this stream. I will take it. But Boosty, he has got to absolutely dump that ERS like there is no tomorrow. He weaves heavily to the inside, trying to break that toe as much as they can. Soybean is going to close that gap down to 1.5 tenths, nearly 2 tenths now. And he's going to have a second helping a DRS. Could this be the lap where he takes the position, take the lead of the race? 3 sectors left for the end of this session. And there is only 2 sectors left to go. No more DRS advantage to Soybean. It is now or never. Soybean has got to make the move cleanly and superbly in this second sector or into the third sector to win this race. Otherwise, Boosty has driven an absolute masterclass of a race to take the lead. Into the chicane we go. We're going to stay on board of Soybean because this is all where the action is. We've also got a battle behind. We're going to jump back to Julian for just a moment. 1.5 tenths. He's going to close that gap down. They're going to try and go too wide. There's contact. We do see contact between Gigiland and Julian as they do collide. Fabo goes through for P6. Gigiland has hit the wall as well there. I think Gigiland will no doubt have some front wing damage. We're going to jump back on board with Boosty and Soybean though as they come round the second to final corner. We got the final corner in our eyes there as we come round the final corner. Soybean with the win in his grasps could not conquer it around Hungary today as Boosty crosses the line with a 4.5 tenth gap to win the Hungarian Grand Prix. Rico crossed the line, a 6-second gap to take P3, another podium to add to his trophy cabinet, and Cos Sylvie with a 6.606, awfully a lot of 6s in that, for P4. Emir, or AM7 as many of you know, scores in for P5, a brilliant race for one of his races after a long time. He had a massive hiatus. He wasn't here last season, so it was great to see AIM7 hit the track again. Newly signed on with PR as well for the esports team. Crosses the line for P5. Vabo with P6 after a contact between Julian and GG behind. GG actually tumbles down the order and out of the point into P12 as Chris, the other McLarens, goes through and scores P8. P9 for Tchus on quite a daring strategy here. Opted to end on the soft compound tyres. We have a look at the tyres there. You'll see 16 lap old softs. They are surely screaming. And if I look at my little data sheet here, Mr. Tchus, unfortunately I cannot see his tyre information, but he would have been around about the 60%. And Brizin with the driver of the day going from P20 to P11. But I think, as much as I'd love to say my Ferrari driver deserves driver of the day, I cannot. It has to go, I think, for the masterclass of the race, it has to go to Boosty. He pulled off a strategy I did not think was going to work in his favor. I didn't think he would be able to pull out the time as much as he did and win the race, yet he still did that. He crossed the line with 64% wear on his mediums, 55 for Soybean behind. It was a very close battle between the pair of them. They both ended the race with just enough fuel. I am astonished by that race. So much happened. So much carnage happened. And as Snaff has said in the chat there, yes, Williams with a double point scoring position. And I think they just might continue to extend their lead in the total constructors. We'll have to see. That comes out every week on around Wednesday to Thursday, so look out for that. But Boosty going from P4 to P1, 100% in my books. He has to go. He has to take the driver of the day for me. Of course, with that first lap, I am very curious to know and see the reports. Reports will open tomorrow morning for the drivers. I want to know what happened on that first lap, because Soybean went down a few positions. So did Rico. Rico practically went to the back of the grid. He scored P3. Hell, I would put him up there for the driver of the day. I'm stuck between two. But yeah, a lot happened in that race. And I'm still quite speechless with that first lap. I will take a break now, so give me a moment. I'm going to drink some water, and then we should hopefully have some interviews around the corner. So bear with me, folks. I'll be back in just a second. Right, here we go, folks. Let's have a chat. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have a chat with Boosty at the moment. Boosty is not going to join the waiting room. Jim, you are always welcome for the commentary. Thankfully for me, I had an opportunity to breathe multiple times with it being Hungary. Of course, it is a tricky circuit. It's difficult to get ahead of the drivers. So thank you to the circuit, I think, is where my thanks will go, because I had an opportunity to breathe and think about what am I going to try and say. But as always, Tier 1, they have some thrilling battles, some exciting battles, and some strategies I never thought would ever work in a million years. So, you know, it's always a pleasure to be able to commentate Tier 1. But we're going to have a chat now with Boosty, as classed the DNF merchant at the moment in our Discord. If you haven't joined, please do check the link below. You can join our Discord server, perhaps join the racing yourself. But we're going to have a quick chat now with the DNF merchant. But actually, for tonight, he is the race winner merchant, Mr. Boosty. First of all, massive congratulations for going from P4 after qualifying. A hectic first lap. I still don't fully understand what happened. And then you went on to win the race with what I would class as a strategy masterclass. What's going through your head? How was that race for you?
Yeah, it was very insane home race, so I was very prepared for this. A lot of practice. It was fucking insane, to be honest, and my pace was insane as well. And turn one on lap one was a 3-wide collision, I think. But I managed to get out of it, and yeah, my strategy was always good, soft medium on top.
I'm quite astonished to see that it worked out in your favour, with Soybean managing to rapidly gain time on you, almost a second every lap. I did not expect you to still keep that lead. So, congratulations on being able to defend from Soybean, the Max Verstappen, as he likes to call himself for this season. A very well deserved. In fact, we got SKG, the Racing League account in the chat saying that they are very proud of you. So well done. You got SKG rooting for you as well. But I mean, it looks like 3 wide for the top 3, and then 4 wide into that first corner. How did you manage to avoid the carnage and not score any damage, or did you pick up some damage in that incident?
No, I didn't. They were going 3 wide. I knew it was gonna be a very bad idea, so I basically braked a bit earlier and stayed out of it. Gigi Land got a very good launch as well. He got into P1 after that incident, so yeah.
Excellent. Well, I mean, for a tricky circuit, you all managed to make a very quiet circuit with very few overtaking opportunities very exciting. So thank you for that. Well done for a massive, massive victory. I mean, it's like Monaco, but I would say it's better than Monaco because you've got more opportunities to overtake, and you made them count to win that race. So well done. The final question I have for you is: you've got the final sprint race weekend for next week. You've got Jeddah. What is that circuit to you? Is it something you enjoy? Is it something you're looking forward to, or is it something you're afraid of? You fear that circuit because it's tight walls, 2 DRS or 3 DRS straights. A lot of action is going to happen. A lot of carnage is going to happen. Where do you think you're going to come out in that race?
Yeah, I mean, I love Jeddah. It's one of my favorite circuits as well. I love driving it. My pace is, I think, good as well on it. But as you can see on my Discord name, I'm not very good with tight rolls, so we'll be fighting those.
I think you've got it. You're in the Aston Martin. You're not on the Haas. You're not going to pull a Mick Schumacher. You're not going to pull a Max Verstappen and collide into the wall in qualifying. I have confidence that you've improved well enough that you'll be fine at Jeddah, and I do look forward to that race weekend. So best of luck to you. Hopefully you and your teammate can get some practice in. Rico, very unfortunate race weekend for him. At the back of the grid, qualified in P16 with a 1:16.1, but still managed to come out and stay in the race for the most part. Unfortunately, not score any points. Hopefully he'll be able to score some points at the sprint weekend next week. So congratulations again. Massive round of applause to you and to the team. I look forward to see what you've got in store for us at Jeddah. Hopefully, I'm going to be optimistic here. I'm going to say that we're going to see another podium for you, either next week in the sprint race or in the full race.
Maybe. I hope so too.
I have confidence, but well done again. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much.
Now let's have a quick chat to Mr. Birthday Bean. First of all, Birthday Bean, welcome to the Combox. Happy birthday on stream. Congratulations on a P2. Certainly could have been a P1. You were absolutely on fire. Absolutely on fire. You were gaining, I think, about a second and a half per lap towards the end of that race. And then right at the final moment, 6 sectors left to go. You're within a second. You couldn't quite get that race victory. What was going through your head for those final 2 laps?
Well, to be honest, I knew that I wasn't really going to get past him because the DRS at this track is just not long enough to really have an advantage. And I was catching, and then suddenly I just stopped catching by a second. And I don't know what boost he ate this morning to be that quick because, even in quali at the start of the race, he wasn't particularly fast. And then just when he got on the mediums, he was even matching or beating me at some points on older tires. So he was cooking something up. Obviously, it's his home race, so maybe he just practices a lot. But yeah, it was definitely a winnable race and a few incidents as well. So yeah, I might get a penalty, but it is what it is, and still a good race and a lot of fun as well. Trying to catch up because I had to push pretty much the whole race. So yeah, I decided to try something different. Obviously, I could have started on the softs and probably wouldn't have. Whatever happened at turn 1 wouldn't have happened, and I probably would have ran away from everyone. But I decided to try something different, and yeah, and stay out longer as well than I should have probably. But yeah, still a good race, and yeah, nice to see someone else win for once. And
Not very
we'll
Max
go again
Verstappen-like
at
of you
least.
to congratulate another race winner to steal your streak.
Yeah, but I mean, I kind of ruined it anyway in Brazil, so it wasn't exactly Max Verstappen, but yeah, I mean, we'll come back next race. I think it's Jeddah or something,
It is Jeddah. Is that
and
a
I'll
strong
put us.
circuit for you?
It's strong until I stick it in a wall. So.
Okay. Well, hopefully you don't pull a Max Verstappen in qualifying. Of course, it's one shot, so everyone's going to have that one opportunity to put in a perfect lap. And with it being in the middle of a desert, I think there's no doubt in my mind it's going to be a very dry race, and I think it's going to be a good race to be in the dry. I know PSGL at one point a few seasons ago had a full wet Jeddah race, which was kind of chaotic. Hopefully you guys don't have that. We'll have the weather to be announced soon. But yeah,
I
no,
mean, you never know with these admins, and especially Darkness, bro. He does not know how to make a weather forecast. So.
I thought his name was Michael Massey in the server actually.
I mean, I've heard rumors of light mode, but it is what it is at this
your best
point.
friend Rico has claimed that Darkness is now Michael Massey.
It's possible, but at least the race, it's probably going to be one on DRS. Let's be honest.
Probably.
Someone's gonna do a Yano Opmir and just win by 5,000ths of a second.
Well, to be honest,
So,
you kind of went for an Opmir-esque strategy. You know, going for something that you didn't expect would work out in your favor. You still managed to score P2. And I mean, he always goes for strategies that no one expects and still wins the race. Unfortunately, you didn't quite get the win of the race, but you know, it happens.
yeah, but the Yano Opmir doesn't make stupid mistakes, so.
Everyone makes their
that's why
mistakes.
he
We
won.
just don't see his mistakes. We'll leave it as that.
Yeah.
But anyways,
I mean, it's where it matters, isn't it? So.
still, a very good race. It was very unfortunate to see you lose out that win. It was an exciting battle. It was one I was waiting for because I think for the 15 laps or the 13 laps after you pitted, it basically died off. There was no overtakes, no battles, and it started to ramp up. You putting in a lap, you go 1.5 seconds faster, 1.2 seconds faster, closing that gap down to thank you for a very exciting end to the race. And I certainly look forward to see what you can do in that RB19 around Jeddah.
Thank you very much.
And now for our final interviewer or interviewee of the session, we are going to have a chat with Mr. Also Rico versus, first of all, Mr. Rico. I have to ask you, my friend, what happened on that first lap? Because I did see for a moment come up on my timing screens, you went from the top of the pack to the bottom of the pack. What happened into that first corner?
Bro. No joke. Nah. Kind of outbreak myself. No. I went a little bit too deep, and then my left rear got hit, and then I spun-ish, but then my front wing hit caused his side pot, and then he got damaged because of that, and I got wing damage, so I had to pit.
Well,
but, yeah.
It's still an incredible race. You still managed to come through and score P3. I saw you absolutely climbing through the ranks, not giving anyone an inch. You know, pushing the limits, trying to push. I say pushing the limits. You weren't pushing the limits. You were just pushing your tires crossing the line. 52% mediums. How was the grip on those mediums at the end of the race?
They were actually pretty good. Like, the tire wear isn't that big on this track, but the temperatures of the tires got really high. So. But overall, pretty good race, to be fair. I had a couple clean overtakes. Well, I had clean overtakes, but like a couple good ones.
Clean overtakes. So I'm sure the stewards are going to have a lot of fun with you then if you had some dirty
Okay,
overtakes.
let's see what happens at Saturday, little bro.
Okay. And the final question I've got for you, as I've asked to Boosty and to Soybean, you've got Jeddah, and it's a sprint weekend as well next week. So one-shot quali. I believe it's an 8-lap sprint race, 29-lap full race. What are your thoughts on the circuit? Are you confident for that circuit? Do you think you've got the pace to try and beat the likes of Boosty, Soybean, and Cos?
I would say yes.
Realistically?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I like it. I like the optimism. and I'm certainly looking forward to it. I think Soybean said it was one of his favorite tracks. I know for me, I love that
Oh,
circuit.
really? I hate him.
Is it a favorite track of yours? Is it something you enjoy racing around, or is it you hate it for the curves?
I haven't
rules?
raced it on this track yet, but I've done a couple laps on time trials, and like previous games, I really like the track. But the curb, they changed the curbs in some corners, which I have to get used to. But I really like the track.
Awesome. Well, I am looking forward to the race. I'm looking forward to see what you have in store for us. Perhaps you can pull out a Hamilton-esque drive like you did at Brazil.
Whoa,
Go
why
from the back of
Hamilton?
the grid, go to P5 in the sprint, go down to P10 for the race, and go up to P1 for the race. Who knows? Perhaps Jeddah could be your second race win of the season, or third
Well,
race.
I would rather start at the front instead of the back. I'll probably have a race band, to be fair.
We'll have to see. Hopefully you don't get a race ban. I'd like to see your race.
Well,
But-
I probably will.
You probably will. Well, congratulations again. Very well done on that P3. Very well deserved. And I look forward to see what you've got in store for us for next week at Jeddah.
Thank you.
And that'll be all for the stream tonight. Thank you everyone for joining me for the Tier 1 stream. That was Boosty to win the race in the Aston Martin. It was then an Red Bull P2 and then an Alfa Romeo P3. An incredible start that had so much chaos in the first lap. And then it died down. And then it ramped up. And then it died down. And right to the dying moment, 6 sectors left to go. Soybean and Boosty fighting it out for the lead of the race. But Boosty comes out on top to win that race. A superb race from everyone. The stewards, I know, are going to have an absolute delight on Tuesday. Probably grow some more grey hairs with whatever happened in that first lap and that first corner. But that'll be all. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. And we're not going to just end it there. Something I'm going to start doing if you are streaming in part of our community, or if you've got, if there are charity streams going on, we are going to start raiding some people of the community and show support for others out there. So do bear with me for a moment as I have a quick look to see who is online, who is on for a stream that we can have a peek at, and perhaps raid. And in fact, I think what I'm going to do for tonight, we're going to raid a good friend of mine who is streaming. So if you wouldn't mind, please do join the raid and join me to say hello to a dear friend of mine. Thank you very much, everyone, and see you next week for Jeddah.